to this year's FFANY Market Trend Watch. We're really excited to have our special guest, Shannon Adducci, Style Director of Footwear News, on this episode. So welcome, Shannon. Thank you for joining me today.
Thanks for having me, Sandi. So excited to chat with you.
Yeah. So I used to work with Shannon, and I loved seeing what Shannon wore to the office every single day. She has a fabulous sense of style and really kind of mixes it up all the time. And I just love your sense of style. I think it's pretty amazing. And I'm excited to talk to you today about what's to come for FFANY Market Week and what you've been seeing at the fashion shows and what's to come for 2024. So excited to have you here, Shannon.
Yes, let's get into it.
Let's get into it. I have a lot of questions for you. I'm just going to start with asking a little bit about what you did see at Fashion Week in terms of footwear when you were, all over the globe in Europe and in New York, and what you saw and what you really liked and what you were drawn to during Fashion Week.
Okay, big question to start with. I think this was the season, since the pandemic, and I know it's been a few seasons now, but we've really seen this pendulum swing, from at-home comfort to sort of a more extreme, the pointy toe stiletto that's kind of fall 23. And just in general, I think people were still figuring out what do they want to wear, what is the right uniform for them. And it feels like spring 24 is finally the season where that kind of gels together a little bit more. So I think it was a little more just middle of the road, but that's a good thing. So in terms of footwear, I mean, I really did see that for fall 23. That's, we saw the pump, the pointed toe, the stiletto, which for, women getting older, there's only so much you can take. And so I was really excited to see, just in general, this kind of pendulum swing back to a little more comfort. Just, in general, there was a footbed sandal trend that I had a hunch, talking to women, people were like, I can't wear heels all the time. And so I think, we saw that Loewe did a footbed sandal. They did a footbed sandal with a heel, which I thought was really interesting. So I think there is a swing back to some comfort. There's a swing back to just a little bit less stoicism, a little more embellishment, a little more texture. It's still kind of subdued, but I do think overall this is the season where people kind of are going to be able to put their wardrobe together and feel like they're confident in what they wear and what they choose.
Good point. I'm interested in hearing a little bit about the embellishments that you have been seeing and the materials and the fabrics and the style in terms of like how people are dressing up, those sandals or their boots or their sneakers, and what, you saw and what you liked about that.
So in terms of embellishment, I really think, and it's never groundbreaking for spring, but there was floral embellishment, sort of in the way more of a sculptural flower. That was at Jimmy Choo. They did a lot of that. So seeing that more in like a sculptural 3D, that was a pretty embellishment. Also just a good buckle, and nothing too big, nothing too small, but buckles are always everywhere, but I did sort of see that as more of just it's still subdued, but it's, done in a nice hardware. So I think those were the two embellishments that I saw.
Right. Speaking of buckles and zippers, and, that kind of takes me into that, the boot and maybe the Chelsea boot, having some cool zippers and embellishments and things like that. And I've noticed that a lot lately, and I really like that too. And that does, also swing into what's happening with men's. What have you been seeing that's kind of new for men's footwear? It seems like people are taking a little bit more of a chance and styling their sneakers in a cool way and having a little more fun with that. So what have you been seeing on that?
For men's, and I think just this is also unisex. What I love to do is look on, I look at on the runways, I look in presentations, Then I look at retailers and what they've bought, but then you look on the street and really, I mean, we saw very few sneakers on the runway, but that is what everyone is wearing still. So I think that is just never going away. We know that. I do think there is, and maybe this is this conversation about how to get dressed, what to wear. There's definitely less of it though in the office. And so I think we've seen for a few seasons now, the men's dress shoe, the brown shoe, those classics have come back. I think people are still trying to figure out how to wear them and where to wear them and with what, but I think we're seeing that. But I also noticed for spring, just the men's mule continues to be the trend. And I was just, at Birkenstock, and they did a dressed up men's mule that looks a little bit like a monk strap. Like if a monk strap married a Birkenstock Boston, like that's what, and I think, and there were a lot of buyers very interested in it. I think we're going to see that mule continue to be sort of the sneaker alternative for the person who can't get into the actual men's dress shoe. That's like you're seeing the mule get a little more dressed up.
Yeah, I've noticed that too, the hybrid of that sneaker meets a dress shoe in terms of a slide, or even like a high top sneaker in a dressier way, or even a dress shoe with just kind of like a softer bottom. I have noticed that hybrid for men footwear. And I'm interested in hearing a little bit about what you've seen in terms of color.
So I think, fall was all about these really subdued, and now I'm feeling like very boring color palettes. I mean, a lot of gray. It was like gray, black, brown, and I think for spring, we're not going to get back to Barbie pink. I don't think that's, it's had its moment, and actually it's been years sort of in the making in fashion. But we're getting back to the color. I think it's a little bit more muted. Seeing a lot of just pretty, very muted colors, like a lovely, like sage green. But in terms of, I mean, it's not necessarily a color, more of a metallic. Silver is also really trending. I don't think you can underestimate the impact that Beyonce's Renaissance tour had. I mean, she asked everyone to wear silver. I think people got into it. You saw it on the runways. It's still trickling through. So I think that's a big trend in color. But yeah, there is more color for spring. It's still more subdued. It's not Barbie pink.
Right. It's
That's
somewhere
sort
in the
of,
middle. It's somewhere in the middle. And I have noticed that the neutrals has just been overwhelming this fall. With, the browns and the khaki and all of the neutrals have been really, really soothing. But I guess, when spring arrives, we'll be ready for something a little bit different.
Yeah.
With some more colorways. But I have seen that sage green and even some of the orange, like the burnt oranges, and some of them in a softer tone. So yes, I see what you're saying there, and I'm looking forward to that. And I do see the silver everywhere. I mean, I've seen that conversation take place online many, many times. Is silver going to be the new gold? Is that taking over? Should we just throw away anything that we have with kind of gold embellishments, or is that still continuing on?
I always love gold, and that's like where most of my jewelry. And so, I mean, that's often an internal conversation. Don't throw out your gold, I would say. But I do think, yeah, we'll see a metals shift to a silver tone. And, people can experiment also with a mixed metal look. I think that, that it depends. But we saw everything from just like more silver metallic hardware touches to like a full-on silver boot. There was that, but you don't have to go that far. So I think we'll see sort of a variety of it. And I think on that note too, just the influence of, I mean, we talked all summer about the influence of Taylor Swift and Beyonce, two major tours that really were cultural touchstones, and in many ways sort of like the driving fashion moments of the summer. I still think we're seeing that kind of, permeate through fashion and through what people are wearing and what they're interested in. We didn't see, for example, really any Western boots on the runway, But I think that it's a shape, it's less about the literal interpretation of it now, and it's more about the shape of it and the attitude of it. So I think that'll still influence in the coming seasons, but maybe not so literal.
Yeah, because we did pull a data report recently and it did show one of the most searched items in footwear was Western and boots, Western boots. So I agree. I don't think it's going anywhere so quickly, but I'll stay tuned on
I
that
will
one.
say personally, this fall, I've been wearing a true Western boot, and I've done it instead of I think things like Chelsea boots are never going to go away because they're so classic. But I've been wearing, instead of a Chelsea boot or my ankle boot, I wear a Western boot underneath, wide leg jeans or a slouchy suit. And I mean, not all of them, but I have a very comfortable pair of Western boots, and actually they've saved my feet this fall. So,
Yeah.
um,
I like them too. But I do kind of tend to like my sneakers and my Chelsea boot and even some of my clogs and my clog
mhm.
boots. What do you think about clogs and clog boots and all of that trend? Is that going away? Is it?
I saw a little less of the clog on the runways for spring.
Yeah,
Now, that doesn't always mean when you're looking at top designer fashion, it's always interesting to see what the buyers are going to pick up, what the customers, and being an editorial, sometimes I don't see what the customers are buying. So I try as best as I can to get the retailers to tell me what they're buying.
yeah,
Um, I've seen less clogs, but the prevalence and the endurance of the loafer,
yeah,
I don't think we can underestimate that. And I
yeah,
did hear from retailers, I didn't see many loafers for spring, but I've asked retailers and they're absolutely planning on buying them. Still, there's still a demand for it. I
yeah,
do think in that workwear moment, it's something that a lot of people feel comfortable with. I mean, once you break in a pair of loafers,
yeah, that's
um,
right.
but I think people are still into that, and we'll see
Yeah.
it. I don't know for how long, the chunkier loafer, but I think we'll still see it through next year.
A variation of the loafer. I love my loafers. That is definitely my go-to when I'm going into the office or walking around the city for the day and I'm not wearing my sneakers. I will grab a loafer or my Chelsea boot.
Yeah.
Or now I'm looking at some of the Mary Jane flats and the ballet flats and all of that. So I'm guessing that's high on everyone's list for spring. And tell me a little bit about that trend.
We saw so many ballet flats, so many interpretations. It's fun to see it come back. I had a feeling, even, I don't know, in 2020, I'm like, this is gonna somehow come back. So really for spring, everyone has a ballet flat. We saw it kind of happen earlier this summer,
Mhm.
with this mesh ballet flat trend. Which again, I mean, the Row introduced theirs back in 2020, and it kind of took a minute for it to sort of permeate. And then Alaya did this mesh flat, and that's still sold out. So we saw a lot of that trickle down. It's in mesh, it's in, a soft velvet. Um, there are even variations on it. Tory Burch, who is sort of queen of ballet flat, she did really interesting different ones with like, different, hardware, and one that actually kind of looked a little bit like a clog meets a ballet flat, which I couldn't quite tell at first. But so there are interesting iterations. I'm curious to see, to be quite honest, I tried them during Fashion Month and had a hard time pounding the pavement in a ballet. So
Yeah.
I think I'm interested to see how they do for spring and now. I mean, they're selling now. Um, I almost think of it personally as an indoor shoe, and
Mm.
I wonder if that trend will somehow influence the slipper market a little bit more and sort of go in that direction. Um, I want I want protection on my feet. So I think in terms of where you wear it, that's a good question.
Yeah.
And we're seeing a lot of it. The ballet flat is very soft, so it doesn't have
Right. Padding or
that that really sturdy sole. So that's my only sort of,
caveat to that. I mean, I
yeah.
definitely think it's something that's very easy to wear with jeans or a sundress or in the spring and the summer. But you're right, maybe for a shorter period of time and not for the full day. Once you've gotten used to your sneakers and that comfort and cushion, it's hard to then move into a ballet flat. But I would say the same for a Western boot. I don't know that I could hit the pavement for, hours on end in a Western boot also, but we'll see where that takes us. But I definitely have seen that in both younger women, in the junior market. Kids love the ballet flat or the Mary Jane. So it really has a wide span, and I think it has a lot of room for growth. So we'll see what happens there. And I'd love just to touch really quickly on the athletic market. It's been, such an exciting world with colorways and designer meets athletic with performance mixed in there. And now the latest trend with pickleball. Everyone's in pickleball and in every which way. So have you noticed a trend in that? Sneakers with,
absolutely. We were on the pickleball beat all summer. It felt like it was just, there were, and it's not just a court shoe, a tennis shoe. Brands are now actually making pickleball shoes, and there's demand for it. And I can tell you personally, and now I haven't tried it, my colleagues have. So my colleagues tried the pickleball shoes and they, actually played. But I can tell you personally, I have so many friends and family members who play it now. I don't think that's going away. I think it was really smart for some of these athletic brands to really pick up on that pretty quickly and introduce product for it, because I do think it's here to stay. And it's great that there's not that it's a new sport, but it's a newly trending sport.
absolutely.
That everyone seems to be joining in on. So I think it's wonderful.
Yeah.
Try it though.
It's pretty accessible and it's fun for everyone, like you said. And I'm interested to hear just a couple of more things from you. One is, I'm just going to close this out with two more questions. One is just personally, like I said in the beginning, I really admire your sense of style, and I'm interested to hear what your go-to outside of the Western boot. What are your go-to trends that you like to wear on an everyday, you're going out at night or you're going to the office? What styles and trends do you like right now?
I'm currently wearing a loafer.
Okay.
I still love a boot, and I do think we saw that always happens. Spring is less boot heavy. I thought it was maybe a little too less boot heavy, should have had a little bit more in there, because I love a boot. I just think it protects you from everything. But I think I'm thinking a little bit differently now about that day to night option. And I think this came about when, fall trends really put forth the pump and the high heel, the stiletto kind of coming back. And, part of that is age. Although I will say, to your point, talking to younger women, they're less into the high heel, the stiletto heel, and it's more of a Mary Jane and a ballet flat, even for nighttime. So that's super interesting. But I'm thinking more about, okay, what is a full day shoe? That's why I think the loafer is so great and is not going anywhere. What's the full day shoe that I'm going to be in the office? I'm going to do everything that I need, run appointments. And then, having a special going out shoe, which you still want that, right? And I think that's the slingback is the other sort of trend that is current for spring, tons of slingbacks. So I'm really thinking about, I don't know, being more specific about my, if I do go out and I want to do that, I will change my shoe. And so it's less of, now it's less of that day to night look. And I just wonder, I have a feeling that other women might start thinking about it that way, or already are. Yes, I want to get back into a beautiful heel. We love heels, but we can't. I think we are past the point where most women will be wearing a high heel day to night, and that's why you're seeing these footbed sandals. I think there are options that are for day, and they're very clearly day. And then, there will be a special, and it's, special events, weddings, etc. changing your shoe, because that is fun. And I love shoes. I love my shoes, and I always want to find an opportunity to wear them. So I'm
Right.
into a shoe change.
Yeah, I am too, but I still will go to a kitten heel or a block heel or something in that way, so that I can even be comfortable for that 5 hour or 6 hour
Oh, yes. Oh,
event or wedding, so that I could feel comfortable and not be kind of tortured by the end of the evening and feeling like I need another shoe change.
and I do
But-
tell, I tell people that, the kitten heel, I mean, that is also continued to go on. I think we're seeing it in more embellishment for spring, which is really fun to kind of have a little bit of that come back. But comfort really at the end of the day is, that's what I try to push for people. If you can
Yeah.
find a beautiful shoe that's comfortable, stick with it.
I'll stick with
Yeah.
that. And then the last question is, as we head into FFANY Market Week, I know you probably have a very busy schedule. I know you're gearing up for the Footwear News Achievement Awards in a couple of weeks. Tell me a little bit about what your week looks like.
Well, as you know, the FNAs are the biggest night for FN, and a big push, and they seem to get bigger every year. We have so many surprise guests that I can't talk about, but so that will be Wednesday, November 29th. And then, so I haven't planned the rest of my week. It's usually the big push, and then I try to get to what I can. But I did notice that I'm really excited. It seems to be just, it's a really robust lineup. And so it just really made me happy to see. I just took a look at it and who's showing. So I'm going to make the rounds, but yeah, it's great to see that it's like really fully, I know it's already been back, but it seems more robust this
You're
season.
absolutely right. You're absolutely right. It is going to be a very busy and exciting week. We're so excited about the Footwear News Achievement Awards. We're a sponsor. We're thrilled to support you, FN, and all of the winners. So congratulations on that. We wish you the best. The brands are so eager to get back to New York and show what's happening for 2024. And we've just heard a lot about some of the retailers that are going to be in town, and it's plenty of retailers that are going to be
I'm
visiting
so
New York
excited.
for a couple of days. So really looking forward to seeing everybody back in town, and congratulations, and really truly thank you for sitting down and answering some questions and chatting with me about what's to come for next year.
Of course, my pleasure. Always happy to do it.
Thank you, Shannon.